What kind of gift makes an entire industry stop, rewind, and ask the same stunned question at once? Did this really just happen? Because this wasn't jewelry. It wasn't flowers. It wasn't a quiet dinner hidden from cameras. It was a rare vintage car. And, according to sources close to the moment, it came from Lee Min-ho to Song Hye Kyo. Right now, right before the next revelation, is your chance to stay connected. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another powerful story, another shocking twist, or another unforgettable journey. The news spread the way only stories like this do, suddenly, irresistibly, and with a sense that something deeply personal had just slipped into public view. Fans froze. Comment sections exploded. Timelines filled with disbelief, excitement, and one overwhelming reaction. This doesn't feel casual. In an industry where every move is measured and every gesture is carefully curated, a gift like this carries weight. Vintage cars are not impulse purchases. They're chosen, researched, restored, remembered. Each one holds history, character, and intention, which immediately raised the question everyone is now asking. Why this gift? And why now? Lee Min-ho has always been known for restraint, for choosing silence over spectacle, for letting time, rather than words, shape his public narrative. Song Hye Kyo, equally guarded, has built a career on grace, depth, and quiet strength. Neither is known for grand public displays. That is precisely why this moment feels different. Those close to the situation described the car not as flashy, but meaningful. A classic model, carefully preserved. A piece of another era, timeless rather than trendy. The kind of object that speaks to memory, taste, and emotional value rather than status. And suddenly, fans began connecting dots they didn't even realize were there. The shared timelines. The overlapping circles. The subtle moments that once felt coincidental. This wasn't just a gift. It felt like a message, one spoken without words. Because gifts like this don't say, "Look at me." They say, "I know you." They suggest familiarity, understanding, the kind of closeness that grows quietly away from headlines until one moment reveals just enough to make people wonder how long it has been there. Industry insiders remain careful. No confirmations. No denials. Only the same measured silence that now feels louder than any statement. And fans? Fans are divided, not in belief, but in emotion. Some are shocked. Some are delighted. Some are simply still trying to process the idea that something so personal could surface so unexpectedly. Because a rare vintage car isn't meant to be replaced. It isn't meant to be temporary. It is meant to be kept. And that symbolism is impossible to ignore. Whether this gesture marks the beginning of a new chapter or simply reveals a connection that has existed quietly for longer than anyone knew, one thing is undeniable. This moment changed the conversation. It reminded fans that not all stories announce themselves loudly. Some arrive through actions, not headlines. Through meaning, not words. And perhaps that is why this gift has left such an impact. Because in a world obsessed with public declarations, this felt intimate, personal, almost cinematic. And now, everyone is watching, not for confirmation, but for what comes next. Because when a story reveals itself this way, it rarely ends with just one scene. And yet, the most powerful part of this story is not the car itself. It is what followed. After the initial shock settled, fans began to notice something quieter, something far more revealing than headlines. There was no rush to explain, no attempt to soften the moment, no carefully worded statement to redirect attention, just silence. A silence that felt deliberate. In an industry trained to manage perception, silence is rarely accidental. It is a choice. And in this case, it felt like a boundary, drawn not to hide something scandalous, but to protect something meaningful. Observers pointed out how neither Lee Min-ho nor Song Hye Kyo altered their public behavior afterward. No sudden distancing. No exaggerated appearances. No forced normalcy. If anything, there was a calmness that felt almost reassuring, as though the moment had landed exactly where it was meant to. And that calm only deepened the intrigue. Because when gestures are exaggerated, they fade quickly. But when they are understated, they linger. Fans began revisiting past interviews, not hunting for proof, but searching for tone, for subtle shifts, for moments where words paused just a little longer than necessary, where smiles appeared and disappeared too naturally to be rehearsed. What emerged was not evidence, but atmosphere. A sense that two people, long accustomed to public scrutiny, had learned how to exist quietly within it. The vintage car, in this light, felt less like a grand reveal and more like a glimpse, an accidental opening in a door that was never meant to be fully opened. And perhaps that is why it resonated so deeply. Because it didn't feel like a beginning staged for an audience. It felt like a continuation of something already in motion. Something that did not need applause. In Korean culture, and especially among those who value tradition and symbolism, gifts are rarely chosen lightly. A vintage car represents more than elegance. It represents endurance.
Care.
The idea that something old can still be cherished, restored, and given new life. Fans couldn't help but notice the parallel. Two careers built over decades. Two individuals shaped by experience. Two lives that understand the weight of time. If this was merely a friendly gesture, it was still an extraordinarily thoughtful one. And if it was something more, then it was handled with a grace rarely seen in celebrity narratives. No promises made. No future announced. Only a moment allowed to exist. And that restraint may be the most telling detail of all. Because stories that are meant to last do not rush themselves. They unfold carefully, often invisibly, until one small moment reveals just enough to make the world pause. This gift did not answer questions. It created a feeling that something genuine may be unfolding beyond the reach of cameras and captions. A reminder that even in an industry built on visibility, some of the most meaningful connections remain intentionally unseen. And so fans wait, not impatiently, not demanding clarity, but quietly attentive. Because whatever this is, it does not feel fleeting. It feels considered. And in a world where everything moves fast and fades faster, that may be the most romantic detail of all.